Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I have great news today. Well, at least maybe a silver lining to a dark cloud. We will see. As you are probably well aware by now, we are well into the 120-day period where we are all supposed to register our braced AR pistols, or just braced firearms in general, as short-barreled rifles, SBRs, under the ATF's new pistol brace rule. And as you know, I believe that rule is highly unconstitutional and a direct infringement on our Second Amendment rights. Well, as I've said in past videos, there have been some bills introduced to fight this. Well, those are not very likely to pass with who we have in the White House right now. I don't see him signing anything like that into law. So I think that the best way to fight this is in the courtroom. And there is a fantastic new lawsuit that was just filed a couple days ago. 25 states jumped on board, including my home state of Idaho. I am very proud of my state for that, and the other half of the states in the union for suing Merrick Garland and the ATF. We're going to talk about it in this video. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification, and let's talk about this lawsuit, because this might be what it takes to get rid of this unconstitutional ruling. So without getting too into the weeds here, just in case you're unaware, and this is the first you've heard of it, which I'm sure for most of you that is not the case, the ATF has made these pistol braces. They've been perfectly legal for a decade now, since 2012, when the ATF said that they were perfectly fine. Well, they've become extremely popular. Between 10 and 40 million of them have been purchased. The ATF says 3 million, but they're also not counting any sales in 2021 and 2022, which were the 2 years with the highest sales of pistol braces and pistol brace firearms. Anyway, millions and millions of these things, common use, right? Well, anyway, they've just decided recently and put it into rule that these are actually illegal SBRs and that we've all been felons for purchasing these things, which they themselves said were perfectly legal. Well, this is highly unconstitutional, and it's a direct infringement upon our rights, as I said in the intro, and I was hoping that they would get sued into oblivion over this. Well, it looks like they are. We'll see if they win the court case or not. Hopefully we do. But anyway, Gun Owners of America, the Gun Owners Foundation, I believe, and the state of Texas teamed up to sue the ATF, but 25 other states have jumped on board as well. So half of the states in the country are on board in this lawsuit, along with a bunch of other plaintiffs, a wounded warrior, a lot of people going after the ATF on this, which is exactly what we want to see. Hopefully a judge will look at this and be like, if half the states in the country are suing the ATF over something, maybe there's an issue there. I've got an article in front of me from AmmoLand News that I'm going to read some excerpts out of it because they explain it better than I can. And then we're just going to talk about it as we go along. But anyway, this is actually an article written by John Crump. He has his own YouTube channel. If you don't follow that, it is definitely worth it. He is a lawyer that focuses on Second Amendment stuff, and he does a great job explaining this kind of thing. So definitely check out John Crump News. But anyway, states take Merrick Garland and the ATF to court over the pistol brace rule. So this is from AmmoLand.com is where I found this article because I wanted to have my information right for this video. 2 new lawsuits over the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which is the ATF, controversial pistol brace rule were filed yesterday, with over half the states and the country joining in suits challenging the ATF's rule. Gun Owners of America, the GOA, Gun Owners Foundation and the state of Texas teamed up to sue the ATF over what they see as an unconstitutional rule that violated the American Procedures Act, the APA, which it absolutely does. The lawsuits highlight that both pistols and short-barreled rifles, SBRs, are protected items. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. It points out that SBRs are also no more dangerous than any other firearm, and that the length doesn't make it any more lethal. I made a video about that. If they say that these things have been SBRs this whole time, well then SBRs haven't been a problem and probably shouldn't be regulated in the first place. It also breaks down the history of the National Firearms Act, the NFA. The NFA is where all of our ATF problems come from, and shows that it was a failed attempt to ban pistols. Another thing I mentioned in my last week's video. That SBR regulation of the law was a leftover piece of legislation that was never removed and served no purpose. So the only reason that SBRs were regulated under the NFA is because they were trying to regulate pistols, handguns. Well, they took handguns off. SBRs were only on there as a means to not let people get around the pistol regulation by having short-barreled rifles, basically pistols, and they forgot to take those off at the last minute, and we've had this ridiculous SBR regulation ever since. So they're pointing that out. This is really good for getting rid of the NFA. The lawsuit also highlights that the new rule violates the Fifth Amendment protections against self-incrimination, since the ATF now considers the firearms to be unregistered SBRs, and it requires gun owners to report to the ATF that they own these guns. So, self-incrimination, they're basically saying that we all own unregistered illegal SBRs, but we also have to tell the ATF that we own unregistered illegal SBRs. Self-incrimination. Also, anyone registering in one of 6 states where SBRs are illegal will have their Form 1 rejected. If you live in California or somewhere like that, New York, places where they don't allow NFA items, you're screwed under this rule. So, during the registration process, the chief law enforcement officer will be notified. That's how the NFA works, which could lead to an arrest. So you could end up getting arrested for something that you bought perfectly legal at a gun store or online or wherever you got it. It isn't just the 6 states where SBRs are illegal, though. 24 states make it illegal to possess an SBR without obtaining a tax stamp first, meaning anyone registering their firearm has incriminated themselves. It's like the ATF put together this rule without thinking about all this stuff that is highly illegal. Either that or they did think about it and they just thought that they, I don't know what they were thinking, because it's not legal what they're trying to do. The lawsuit takes aim at the ATF's enforcement discretion. The groups highlight how the enforcement discretion can be reversed. And this is the ATF. They do this all the time. They say one thing and then they go back on it. The group points to the ATF telling a GOA lawyer that if the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, the NICS system that you use to do your background check every time you purchase a firearm, does not return a result within 88 days, that the registration will be rejected. Now, this is something, I'm not sure how true this is, but I have been hearing about this. And an enforcement action will be taken against the gun owner. The lawsuit also points to the contradictory answer that AmmoLand News received from the ATF when addressing the same subject. So the ATF doesn't even know what they're going to do. Somebody in the ATF says, yeah, if your thing doesn't come back in 88 days, it's rejected, and we will take enforcement, meaning they're going to, kick down your door, shoot your dog, take you to jail in front of your family for owning something that's been perfectly legal forever. Then someone else from the ATF says, no, we won't do that. It's ridiculous. The groups point to this as how the ATF can reverse itself as it sees fit. The ATF doesn't mention using this enforcement discretion on other items, such as non-NFA shotguns, such as the Mossberg TAC-14 or Remington Shockwave, equipped with pistol braces, because they said that those guns cannot be registered because they were never meant to be fired with one hand. Anyway, there's a bunch of other stuff here. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I just want to read a couple other parts. So it also attacks the rule for failing the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment for its vagueness. That is great. It also points to the rule of lenity. The rule of lenity is very important. It basically states that if something is vague, that it basically says that the government is in the wrong on that, not us. But anyway, the rule of lenity, which forbids a wholesale administrative reinterpretation of a statute that retroactively criminalizes possession of previously legal firearms, which is exactly what this does. These are previously legal, and then they want to make them criminalized. The rule of lenity states that an interpretation of a criminal statute must favor the defendant. That would be we the people, not the government. This rule was cited throughout the Cargill case that saw the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals rule that the bump stock ban violated the APA. That case is very similar to what we're going through here. Not sure, I'm not a lawyer. Hopefully that can be used as like case law and to help us beat the ATF on this. We'll see. Cargill, that dude, I applaud that man for what he did. So the case also says the rule is vastly different from the proposed one. And this is another thing. Not that I like the proposed rule, but they had the Form 4999, and that is what everybody commented on. Well, they didn't use Form 4999, and most of those comments were about that form. So they really didn't give us a comment period on the actual rule that they actually dropped in the end. In fact, many of the 210,000 comments addressed concerns about how the calculations were done, which ended up not even being a part of the rule. So the plaintiffs feel that the ATF didn't allow the people to comment on the rule that actually now is in effect. Another APA violation is that the rule went into effect immediately. The APA requires at least 30 days between publishing a rule and the rule going into effect without showing good cause as to why the grace period should be removed. And they're saying that the ATF didn't show good cause, therefore violating the APA. They also take a swipe at the NFA itself, and this is what I really love. By calling it the $200 tax, a fee, the tax stamp that you have to pay to register an NFA item, it is a direct tax on a right, which is illegal. According to the Supreme Court, in the case Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, the government cannot put a direct tax on a right. That had to do with a Jehovah's Witness going door to door and them trying to make them pay a tax to use their First Amendment rights. Supreme Court ruled that is illegal. Yet somehow we have our Second Amendment rights, and they've been forcing us to pay a $200 tax to exercise that right in order to get a short-barreled rifle or a silencer or anything like that. In fact, I recently paid for a $200 tax stamp, and I'm still waiting for my silencer for my 300 Blackout braced pistol. This would end up being a 2-stamp gun under this rule. Millions of Americans are facing a very tight deadline to destroy or register their lawfully owned property under this draconian new rule. We hope the court will hear the pleas of gun owners across the country who will be irrevocably harmed by this rule, and GOA stands ready to fight it at every turn. That is a direct quote from Eric Pratt, GOA's senior vice president. So this lawsuit is something that I have some actual faith in as something that could do something about this. As much as I love to see these bills being introduced into Congress, and I love to see the, like people like Lauren Boebert, some of these congressmen and what they had to say about the ATF and Director Dettelbach. It was great to watch, although I'm not sure how productive it'll really be. Like I said, because the way laws work, they have to be passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives, and then they go in front of the president for either a stamp of approval being signed into law or it gets vetoed. And we have a president right now in the White House who does not believe in the Second Amendment, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense when he swore to uphold the Constitution. The Second Amendment is part of that Constitution. But I don't see him passing any of these bills that are meant to repeal the NFA or get rid of the ATF altogether, or like the SHORT Act, which I've brought up in many videos, Stop Harassing Owners of Rifles Today. That basically takes SBRs off of the NFA, which in turn would make the pistol brace rule worthless. But all these things would need to be written into law by President Joe Biden, and I just don't see that happening. So I do think that court cases like this, and this isn't the first one, and I'm sure it won't be the last one. The ATF has been sued a lot over this pistol brace rule just in the last 2 weeks. It is a great thing to see. Unfortunately, litigation takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. Now, some of these organizations are very well funded, like Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation. Even the NRA is on board. They're not listed as one of the plaintiffs, but they have put what I believe is a significant amount of money forward to help this lawsuit. So, you know, if you can support these organizations in any way that are trying to support us and keep our Second Amendment rights intact, please do so. Also, let your senators and representatives know that you believe in the Constitution and keeping your Second Amendment rights as an American, because the more they hear that, and let them know that that is an issue that means a vote to you, that you will either vote for them or against them, depending on how they vote on Second Amendment bills. Because our country is going in a very terrible direction in a lot of ways. And we need some real change to happen. And that change does start with us. And that is a big reason for my YouTube channel, trying to get the word out there. I know that there are other channels that do similar things, and I applaud those guys. Please share this video with everyone that you can, because even non-gun owners need to know about this kind of stuff. Because once they take away our Second Amendment rights, well, then they can take away all our rights. The Second Amendment is what protects all the rest of our rights. We have the right to own whatever firearms we choose, whether they have pistol braces or not. There is nothing that makes this firearm any more dangerous just because the barrel is less than 16 inches. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you are in on the fight with the rest of us. Please subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. Give me a like. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.